because you're not starting.
And we are now live.
We're on live now. There's Phil, there's me, and there's Ron. And Ron is adding a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah.
And Phil and I are going to draw your attention to the green button at the bottom of the screen.
Right down below.
Support our work.
Yep.
We need more patrons, period.
We do. We definitely do.
And if you go there, you'll see for $25 a month, or even just a month. But
there's
if you can be part of the Crowdcast Mastermind and get
one of these very cool T-shirts.
We're having some new Matrix T-shirts made, and if you sign up today, I bet you Phil would even work with you to get one of the new ones.
Oh, yes. In anticipation of
future
webinars. Yes.
Yeah, next week we're going to do one on bushcraft, mental bushcraft. Mental bushcraft. So if you don't know what bushcraft is, Google it. You'll find out a lot.
Yes.
And it all has to do with us watching this History Channel show alone, and watching the people do really good physical bushcraft, and then watching their minds do
bushcraft as well.
On their minds,
a different sort.
Except it turns around and bushwhacks them. Woof. And so we decided we would do that. So it's going to be mental bushcraft.
Mental bushcraft.
Right.
The craft of mental bushcraft.
So you'd have a choice if you sign. At the $25 level.
This has never happened before in the history of Matrix Talks. We're going to give them a choice of T-shirts.
There you go. When you sign up, we'll have your email. We'll do some email exchanges with you.
There you go. Yeah, Tina's here. Vicky's here.
Tina? All right. Okay.
Susan. Kathy from New Jersey. We usually wait until about 1:05 because people traditionally arrive late to get started. So you folks that are new are doing exactly what.
Sky in West Virginia. Wow.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of
Megan from Atlantic Canada.
Did you know, Sky, that I have done a presentation in, is it Charlotte, West Virginia? Is that the capital? Charlotte?
Is it Morgantown?
No. Morgantown.
That's where the university is, right?
I think it's Charlotte. That's not Charlotte. God dang it. Sorry, I blew the name. Charleston. Thank you.
There you go.
Virginia.
I helped you.
I should have thought of the Charleston, Yeah. But yes, years ago I did a presentation there. It was a lot of fun. I even flew in there. It was pretty interesting. To say the least. Cabin Creek. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. I never remembered that.
There you go.
What's Cabin Creek? That was that was a few moons ago. 16 people live now. It is 1:03. Notice, in like the last minute, we've picked up like 8 people.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's why we wait till 1:05, because invariably in the first 5 minutes, you pick up a lot of people.
Yep.
And that keeps us having to repeat anything or play around. And it gives Ron time to do his power.
He's working hard behind the scenes here. Right?
I am.
Before we start, we'll have you know Ron is that's the thing I forgot about, the $25 level.
Yeah, right.
If you stay at the $25 level for 18 months or something, you then have paid in plenty to for certification. And I mentioned Act Matrix certification because Ron is certification number 1.
He was numero uno.
Number 1. He was the first.
This is the source, folks. This is the certification.
Ground zero.
So there you go. Ron has certificate number 1.
Number 1.
We're up to 25 or 30.
Oh, yeah. I think we're past it.
So yeah, maybe past that.
Yeah.
So please sign up for $25 a month. Get qualified. Pay in. Now you can accelerate that. Just send the money in all at
Yeah.
once. And
Whatever way you want.
you don't have. If you're ready to go, you don't have to
Yeah.
wait.
You don't have to wait.
Prepay, and we're still on the low pandemic rate.
Yeah. We're hovering right there with the pandemic. And Tina's on. She did her certification thing a week or so ago.
We got to finish her up.
Yep.
I don't know what we got to do.
Couple of little things that
She's ready to go. Well, she's already done her
Yep.
certification.
She's done her.
We just got to do the right thing. Okay, we're ready. It's 1:06 now.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
Ron, he's going to do a PowerPoint, so he'll be sharing his PowerPoint screen, and he's going to do today's presentation, which is dealing with difficult people in the workplace. And Ron, introduce yourself, and you might say why you're qualified to do this, which he really is, like over the top. A survival guide for leaders. That's the name of it. So.
Oh, I changed.
Hey, Ron.
I called it my presentation something different. I forgot that's what I said we would call it.
Verbal Aikido.
Well, I call it
Aikido. Tai Chi.
Yeah, I didn't do that either.
No.
No, I call it dealing with difficult people, a primer.
There you go.
A little primer on this, and I'll share a quick PowerPoint. And so I've been dealing with difficult people for 34 years. I'm a lawyer and I do litigation law, and every person I deal with is difficult. The other side's difficult, other lawyers are difficult, their clients are difficult, and my clients are difficult. So everybody's difficult. So that's what I do day in, day out, 8 hours a day, deal with difficult people. And that, I think, qualifies me to know a little bit about dealing with difficult people and different ways of dealing with difficult people. Okay, so I'm going to share my PowerPoint, right? So I get to share a screen here.
Okay.
Okay.
We're ready.
Go for it, Ron.
Can you see it?
We can.
It's there.
Click here to close message. What's that? Your screen sharing. Okay.
You're good. We can
You're
see
good.
it
You're
fine.
good.
Yeah,
You're
let's try
fine.
my slideshow here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're going to make it big, huh?
He's going for slideshow.
Go on slideshow. Here we go.
There we go. Nice.
Right. Dealing with difficult people at primer. And that's my contact information. Now let's see how this works.
Okay.
Okay.
You hit the right arrow.
Right.
You got it.
So you hear a lot about and you read a lot about different books and how to deal with difficult people. And so my first question that really helped me understand what to do is I asked this question: what does a difficult person look like? And why are they difficult in the first place, right? And so these are the observations that I've made, right? Difficult people and conflict are synonymous. They're difficult because they're disagreeable. So anytime you have someone who's difficult, it's because you don't share the same point of view. You're not seeing things from eye to eye, right?
Yep.
Now this is something I read from Dr. Polk's Act Matrix book. People get into huge "I'm right, you're wrong" arguments. And that's the essence about being difficult. When you don't share points of view, it's because you disagree. And when you disagree, what's at the core of it, what comes out is blame. So it's either assigning blame or shifting blame. And if you think about it, my client doesn't agree, tells me I don't understand them, I don't get them, I'm not working hard enough. Whatever is wrong or whatever they disagree with is really a criticism against me. Or sometimes if I have to have a conversation with someone and they're not doing what they should be doing, the natural reaction is to shift blame. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. Someone else should have done it. And if you stop to think about it, and you really stop to think about all the difficult conversations you've had, it seems that blame is at the core of the vast majority, if not all, in some way. Anytime you haven't measured up or you can't see what they're seeing, it's because there's something wrong with you or you don't want to understand. And that's why we get triggered by blame. And when we get triggered by blame, our natural instinct is to become defensive and we want to strike back. And so I'm not sure if you've ever had any disagreements with your significant other.
No.
What today?
And you might notice how they might start with, you didn't pick up your socks. And they end with, you've never understood me in our 25 years or 30 years of marriage, right?
Still working at it.
Right. Where you start and where you end up often aren't the same place, because when I respond to the fact that they may not have picked up my socks, I perceive that as a criticism and I feel defensive and I want to strike back. Yeah, well, you never put the dishes away after you have breakfast, right? And suddenly from picking up socks, we're into something else. So, this is what it's like. We start a blame.
All right, a matrix. All
Oh,
right.
that looks familiar.
That looks familiar. So we have a blame cycle. Now, if you guys are getting comments, I can't see them because somehow
I'll keep an eye on them, Ron. Go ahead.
broke my screen. I got
Yeah,
presented.
don't worry. Phil's got you covered.
I'll keep an eye on them. Go ahead.
I don't even know if you guys can see me. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah, we
Oh,
see
we see
all
you
three of us are at the bottom. Wow.
wow.
Left.
Okay.
We're all in the yucky stuff with you.
They're all yucky stuff with you. Okay. So this is basically what's happening. There's a blame cycle. And you can think of this as your matrix, or you can think of this as a group matrix. You and the person who's being difficult. Because every time someone throws something at you, it creates a difficult inner experience or a difficult thought or a difficult memory, which makes you want to strike back. Remember, I talked about this being defensive, being triggered by blame. We become defensive, we want to strike back. And that's sort of, what I learned in the ACT matrix world is that we're under aversive control. And when we're under aversive control, our responses become small, they become narrow, they become insensitive to context. And so we get stuck in this cycle.
Whoa.
Right? And of course, when you're in the blame cycle, you're never going to convince someone about the other point of view. In fact, I've gotten stuck in complaints where blame cycles where I've been completely wrong, rationally understand that, but you think I would admit it? No.
No.
That's part of the deal,
Right.
right? So how do we break this cycle, which is very powerful and grips us strongly? So we're going to talk about breaking the blame cycle.
All right.
All right. So habit number 1. So I go back to Steve Covey, the 7 Habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And habit number 1, be proactive. And this is what he means about being proactive. And this is all about the lower right. Who is important to me? What is important to me? And lower right in the matrix, right? The ability to subordinate an impulse to value is the essence of the proactive person. Reactive people are driven by feelings, by circumstances, by conditions, by their environment. Proactive people are driven by values, carefully thought about, selected, and internalized values.
Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. We don't use values too much. We do use values, but we use them differently. We use them as in who is important to you and what is important to you. And that's sort of having the end in mind. And so I started looking at problems, not so much about what's going on in this blame cycle, but in so much as where I want to be, where I have to be, what I need to do, what's the end game, right?
No.
What's important?
Yep.
Who's important? Okay?
Yep.
And so so you have to notice your inner yucky stuff,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
I have one of those.
Yeah, it looks very familiar.
And then there's this choice thing, right?
Oh,
because
here you go.
there's
Ooh.
space, right? In that space is our power to choose, our response. So this is from Viktor Frankl, and I always go back to Viktor Frankl.
Oh,
And
Viktor,
Viktor Frankl was also referred to by Stephen Covey in his book, right? But there's also a recent book, an Oprah book, which was about another Holocaust survivor who met Stephen Frankl, and she talked about the power of choice as well. I'm just looking at my Kindle app here a second because I just want you to get me the name of that book, and it's called The Choice by Dr. Edith Ava.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I've
with
seen
it.
it.
Right. So this is what I call this is my manifesto for occupying the center.
Ooh.
Right? When you realize that you have choice, so you go back to Viktor Frankl, and apparently there was a situation where he could have escaped the camp, but he was also the camp's doctor. And he knew that if he had escaped, that there'd be some very sick people, some people he was caring for, who would die, right?
Yes.
So he made a choice. He made a choice to stay because that was who he was. Despite all the yucky stuff, he made that choice. And then he also started to notice that other people could make choices. So for instance, there are some people who would hold back little bits of their rations of bread even though they were starving. And what they would do is they'd hold them back and they would give relief to the suffering because they had choice. And what he realized at the end of the day is, a lot of personal freedoms can be taken away from you. And if you despair, then you're more likely to not survive the camp experience. But if you realize that you have choice and you can make choices, that's sort of like the last freedom that no one could take away from the people in the camp. Might not have been a big freedom, but it was the ultimate freedom that no one could take away. No amount of Nazi occupation, no amount of whatever harms he suffered could take away that freedom. And then that's when we get back to between stillness and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So people who were actually able to make these choices were more resilient and more likely to survive those horrendous camp situations. And Dr. Eva, the book, The Choice, she said the same thing. And in fact, she used this power to go back to Auschwitz to face some of her demons because she knew until she did that, she would never really be free of them. It's quite an interesting book. So this power of choice is really important. And what I call my manifesto for claiming the center, where I can notice everything that's going on, that's where I claim my power to do choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm there, I'm in control.
Okay.
Of my responses.
Right.
Okay.
So now you're here.
Mm-hmm.
So you've taken the first big step to breaking the blame cycle.
Oh, breaking the blame cycle. Okay.
We're going to break the blame cycle, right?
Gotcha.
We're going to actually break it. So we're not going to go into that
stuck cycle.
Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Right, where I become defensive and I attack, and then I get attacked.
Blame cycle, right?
Right. Well, I'm going to say something a bit out of order here, right?
Okay.
So this is where I first really realized that being in the center was really powerful, and this is how it was powerful. When I first started my practice of law, I was doing some family law cases. Because when you're a young lawyer learning litigation, you get thrown to the dogs. And you get the worst files possible because you have to be in court a lot. You have to get beaten up and bruised and yelled at and all that kind of stuff. So and that's how they kind of hone you as a litigation lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
They hone you through pain. And pain inflicted by judges and other lawyers, just horrible. And family law was highly emotional, highly toxic. And so I would deal with these lawyers who really got stuck by the blame cycle. Like they would really buy into their client's story, and they would become the surrogates for their clients. So all their letters that they would send to me would be just horrendous, calling, and then I'd have to show them my client. And my client, of course, would get triggered, right? And my client would want me to send back these horrible missives. And by the end of it, they hate each other. That the husband and the wife will hate each other so much that they can't even look at each other, right? So here's the thing. When lawyers do letters like that back and forth, they always put this thing without prejudice, right? And the without prejudice heading at the top of the letter means no one else gets to see it because it's a letter intended for negotiations. The judge doesn't get to see it. No one gets to see it. So that, I had a moment, the light went on. And so what I would do is I'd get my clients and say, here we got this letter. My client would get steamed up and I'd say, why do you care? No one gets to see this. And I said, just think of it. Nobody gets to see this. These are just legal fees on paper. I said, no one cares. The judge doesn't get to see it. Nobody. Who cares what she thinks? Because it'll never come out. It's without prejudice. It can't come out.
Wow.
Oh, right.
So I said, let's look at this letter. What's the only thing we have to respond to? And sometimes there'd be nothing. And so sometimes I'd respond back and I'd say, thank you for your letter. We've acknowledged it. We will deal with it accordingly. Boom. These 10-page letters, one sentence. Right? And so the other lawyers would just get infuriated.
Oh, yeah.
They'd go mental. They'd say, why aren't you doing this? And I'd ask them, well, why should I answer? What's important about it? And they'd go on and on. I said, well, look, your client's full of crap, and that's all you need to know. And that is it was such a powerful thing to do because after a while, other lawyers, they learned they would never write these big, long letters to me because I refused to respond.
Didn't engage.
He didn't engage unless it was something that I really had to engage in. And I told him, your letter means nothing.
Yeah.
You just wasted thousands of your client's dollars.
Of your client's moolah, right.
For a nothing. You hear it? I said, for a nothing. Come back to me when there's a real issue, right? So that's what the center does for you. When you start breaking the blame cycle, you can start using your mind, right? So we're in the center. Okay. Here's the big thing. We don't want to fuel the flame, right? So the flame needs fuel, and the fuel is oxygen, right? So we don't want to give it oxygen. So you think back of every time that you react and every time that you say something to strike back or to become insensitive, you're just giving that fire fuel. So most often than not, I just don't say anything, right? I keep my mouth shut initially. I don't give the fire fuel. I don't strike back. And I realize what the words are really there for. Those are those people's words, right?
Yep.
So at that point, I'm in control. I'm in the center. I like this argument because I drew it, right?
Oh, nice spikes.
So this is me. So when I start feeling the fire, right, like the rope, I'm doing like a tug of war rope with the flame cycle, right? And I love this one because I don't know why, I just do. But look how much bigger the blame cycle
Oh
is.
yeah.
What would happen if I kept trying to do that tug of rope, right?
Yeah.
I just get pulled into these little spikes and get all hurt, right?
You're gonna get holy.
I get holy, right? So I can drop the rope.
But
I'm gonna go in there, and it doesn't matter how big this is. I'm not gonna go here.
No.
I don't know. Do you see my right? So I'm not going here. I'm not going here.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in the center, you don't fuel the fire, and you just drop the rope.
okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So far, so good. So, but the blame's still going on. The other person's still triggered, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what do we need to know? Okay. This is what we need to know. This is the other big thing that I learned.
I've seen that.
Yeah, me too.
I like this model. This is the hand model of the brain, where you take your fingers, you're like the prefrontal cortex, right?
Yep.
That's the thinking part of the brain.
Yep.
And so flip your lid, and you see the forefront, that's the amygdala, right? That's this big rush of, right?
Yep.
And when we're in the blame cycle, we're all flipped. We're all up, right? Now, I know I can re-engage my brain by noticing. But how do I get the other person to re-engage their brain? So I got to get them thinking. And how do I get them thinking? I can't tell them calm down and think, right? Because it just makes it even worse.
That doesn't work so good.
It just fuels the fire. I'm giving fuel to the fire. Anytime anything's perceived as a criticism, something like that, I'm just fueling the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to do? And I take this from the FBI negotiator. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen. And why am I going to listen? Because when people talk, they have to use their brain.
Yep.
So if I can start listening and getting them to talk more, then I can start getting the prefrontal cortex to start the thinking part of the brain to get engaged. Right?
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So this is the guy. So this is like from. I'm gonna go one step further. So this is what. We won't go there yet. So this guy, Mark Colston, right? He is an FBI hostage negotiator, and so he's talking about the influencing cycle when you're trying to influence someone to get someone to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get someone to do something until they buy in. They won't buy in until they. There's a whole cycle, but you have to get from resisting to listening to considering, right? And this is what he wrote. The secret of getting through to absolutely anyone is that you get through to people by having them buy in. Buy-in occurs when people move from resisting to listening to considering what you're saying. Ironically, the key to gaining buy-in and then moving people through the rest of the cycle is not what you tell them, but what you get them to tell you. And he wrote this book, Just Listen. So, ironically, the key to gaining buy-in is not what you tell them, but what you get them to tell you. This is pretty cool because although we want to deal with the issue, we deal with the problem, we deal with the difficult person, if we can. And sometimes you can't, but if you can. It's not by being more rational. It's by listening more, right? And this is what the FBI negotiators do. And I'm going to give you a real life example. So what we want to do is we want to start noticing their matrix. That's what we listen for. We want to uncover their yucky stuff. What's showing up inside of them? It sounds like you're pretty upset. It sounds like you're pretty angry. Noticing what our shared purposes are. So really what you're doing is their matrix for them. Mm-hmm. Or you can do the matrix for you, both of you together, right? And so I'm going to give you an example of how I use this. And this was another law example, a very real life one. I was dealing with a young lawyer in our office who had this file. And of course, it was one of those training files, and the client was very difficult. And the lawyer came to me and said, you know, I don't know what's going on. I've done everything right. I've given the right advice. But these people are very upset, and they're threatening to file a complaint against me at the Bar Society. What should I do? But I haven't done anything wrong. I don't want a complaint. And of course, it would be devastating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. So we're going to role play a little bit, right? I played their part. He started telling me why I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I said, well, see, that's your problem. I said, here's your opening question. What do you want? So I'm kind of asking them what's important about this.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask the client. So they have to stop to think. What do they want from this? And they give me and they'll tell you. So when I said, if I asked you, what do you want? What would the client say? Now, I haven't tried to convince anybody. I haven't tried to persuade anybody. We had this person that shared purpose with us already because they want to resolve a problem. So start with what do you want? So you make a list of what do you want. And then this is the one that Kevin likes, is the yes and, right?
Mm.
Don't ever say yes but. Always say yes and. And say, yes, we can try to do that. Here's what we have to do. Here's how much it'll cost. Here's what the law says. Here's what the likelihood of winning is. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And we went down and do that with every option. Yes. And we can try to do that. And this is what we need to do. He had that meeting. The lawyer did exactly what I told him to do. At the end of it, the client thanked him. And the client, who was about ready to file a complaint against him, wrote to the firm about what a great lawyer this kid was. Not only that, but he ended up picking the route that the lawyer was recommending in the first place because it was the right thing to do. How do we do that? We broke the blame cycle. See, where lawyers get stuck, and most professionals get stuck, is that everyone expects us to have the answer. So when we have a discussion with a client, we tell them what we think. Well, that's a professional opinion.
Yep.
They say no.
Right.
How do I hear as a lawyer? How do I hear no? If you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you have to figure it out.
Uh-oh, pick up the rope.
You suck as a lawyer. That's right. So what do I start doing? I pick up the rope, right? And I'm saying, I'm the lawyer here. I went to law school. Don't you tell me what I know or don't know. You're just not listening. You're not doing what I'm telling you to do. And what the client hears, you think I'm stupid. You think I'm uneducated. You think I don't know what I want. And so guess where we are? We're in the blame cycle.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Right? But if you just ask that first question, what do you want?
Yep.
That's the funny thing, you know, most people come into my office, they don't know what they want. They have no idea. And when you ask that question, it just floors them. What do I want? I've been hurt. I haven't thought about what I want. All I know is I've been hurt.
Yeah.
Right? I want justice. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? It's funny. Lawyers don't ask those open-ended questions because we're also taught that we have to be efficient. For example, you've got to get to the point because you can't have your client in long for your office because it's costing them money, and so you really have to be, really focused, and so we get into tell mode, like the machine gun tell mode, right? And that's when we create the greatest resistance. But if you start where I start most of the time, The meetings are quicker. You don't deal with that resistance, and then people just get it. And they feel heard. And I've uncovered their matrix. What do you want? And they'll tell you when you're having this conversation, but I've been really hurt, I've been upset. I say, I know, I understand. It's a very difficult situation. It sounds like this is quite upsetting to you. So I'm noticing all the inner stuff. So the more I do that, and the more I do the yes-anding, and the more I notice their matrix, the more I move them to the center. And the more I engage that prefrontal cortex, right? The more they talk and they engage their prefrontal cortex, the more they can start being in a position, we're in the center, and they're making rational decisions. So now, this doesn't always work because some people are very difficult, right? So I want to leave you with this is the third most important thing that you need to know. Do you need to respond at all? Because sometimes the best response is no response. And it's like a big who cares, right? And sometimes when you just walk away, and people don't get this, but when someone's going at it and they're going at you and you just say, yeah, goodbye, it is so powerful. The other person can't, I mean, it's mean, right? I don't mean, but as Kevin said, this can be used for good, or this can be used for evil, right? This is the evil application. Who cares, right? The who cares. And sometimes it's the most powerful one. It's the one that shuts down a blame cycle the quickest. And so you got to figure out, why do I need to say anything at all? Why do I need to engage? Do I have a shared purpose with the person? No, if I don't have a relationship, I don't care, I'll never see them again. Okay, big deal, right? When no one else is involved in the communication, sort of like my without prejudice thing. You know, when Laura's sending me all this crappy shit, no one else is involved. The judge is not involved. Judge, I worry about. I want to answer things to respond to the judge because that person has decision-making authority.
Right.
The other lawyer, who cares, right? Sometimes you don't have to respond when you've already responded. And if you control the center, see that's the thing about a fight. You say your bit, you've said what you've had to say. It's like this inability that we have to live with silence. When you said it once, you've said it. You have to say it twice and thrice. Because the more you engage in the blame cycle and the more you start talking about it, the more this thing is going to go from socks to we don't understand each other for the past 25 years. If you said it once, that's it. Done. Don't re-engage. Then you don't add fuel to the fire. And the other one is when it does not matter. So let me say this. I talked about some situations where I have done this, where I have used this, but it also takes practice. Like practice makes perfect. And you have to come up with your own situations and your own circumstances and your own trying it out yourself to see what kind of responses you want to generate when you apply your matrix. And that is the end of the slideshow. I'm ending it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can.
You can.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we start off by noticing when we're in the blame cycle.
Yeah.
Occupying the center.
Occupy the center.
I wonder if anybody online today will have the opportunity to notice getting in the blame cycle in the next year or so.
Nah. What do you think, folks? The next few hours, Megan says. Next 10 minutes, yes, that's more like it. Either just yes.
Well, see, you have
just got an email that put me in the blame. There you go.
See, there you go. So now you have opportunities.
Yes.
Opportunities to notice yourself in the blame cycle and move to the center.
Move to the
Oh,
center.
Gina deleted it. There you go. She did one of those ones, Ron, already. She did it.
She did one of the non-responsive ones. She deleted it.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's cool. But
Yeah.
that practice of noticing when you're in the blame cycle and then doing a yes and or a non-response, that's going to take some practice.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wasn't always good at
Yeah. Oh. The urge to pick up the rope is strong.
Well, my parents are Italian.
Yeah, all right. I hear you on that one.
And if you're not arguing, you're not living.
Yeah, or you're not talking loud. You gotta talk loud too.
Oh, so Sky says he's tempted to be sarcastic and drop the rope.
As you drop the rope, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's dropping the rope.
Try dropping the rope sarcastically. That
yeah. They might notice how that works.
I'm about that. Me and my COVID housemate. Blame cycle likely pending. Sandy. Just like thanks. Now it's clear where you are coming from. There you go. There you go.
You know what? I got to tell you, I've recently, so I've used this professionally in my in my work, but I've recently decided to really use it at home, right?
Yeah.
Really, and I've got cool. So I replaced that when my wife does something that I don't think is great personally. I mean, it's my personal judgment, right? I've gone from, why'd you do that? Which is blame to cool, right? That's interesting. So why'd you decide to do that? Right? It's been a lot more impactful, and you know what? It's made a difference. And when people stop thinking about what they're doing, they're expecting you to say, well, why did that? And you don't give that, and you give the opposite. It's really funny. It's like they feel like there's something missing. They have to talk. They have to justify themselves more. They have to. When you don't give the typical pushback, but this is important, right? Occupying the center is important because it's not avoiding. It's not walking away. It's not a passive aggressive thing.
No.
I'm still there.
Yeah.
I'm just not engaging in the fight. And when someone's expecting a fight and you're not engaging in the fight, that's more scary for the person who wants the fight because they think this is the normal course of things.
Yep.
And they don't know how to respond.
Yep.
It's unsettling, it's uprooting, it's unnerving. And the more you occupy the center and just be present, the more control you start to exercise by actually doing very little, if nothing.
Ooh.
Yep.
That's the Tai Chi and Aikido stuff coming out.
Movement.
Yeah.
Movement and stillness.
Fighting. Yep.
Movement and stillness, I would call that.
So, I call this a primer because there's a lot to it, right? But
keep my mouth. So send the check and keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
could be, yep.
Now you guys got to know that Phil's the Aikido guy and Ron's the Tai Chi guy. Both of those martial arts involve the center, taking the center. So they're extending their martial art knowledge to their verbal skills. So that's
Yep.
And they're always better off using the center, the prefrontal cortex, the observer self.
Yes.
Go to the middle.
Go to the middle.
Oh boy, I was chatting with my husband about this last night, and he was using jujitsu for all the analogies. Oh,
we don't have any jujitsu guys.
Yeah, we're not
people.
Yeah. Without prejudice, get ready for the free reign of blame, punishment, intimidation, and no accountability. Yes, very sad. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, that people, it's funny. People might think they have free reign, but the problem is it very much depends for a blame cycle to work. Someone to be a total asshole, they need to have an impact.
Oh yeah.
If they don't have an impact, that they don't affect anything, then their assholeness just goes into nothingness, right?
Yeah, it's like they're shooting a zinger at you and it's got to land on something.
So, and this is the important about holding the center. You're not walking away.
Nope.
So there are two ways that someone can be an asshole and really make things bad, is if you argue back or if you walk away. Or if you're going to leave, like pick up all your, what I say, I'm going to pick up all my money and leave, or put all my toys and go.
Taking all my toys and going home.
Right. I'm not talking about going home. I don't go home. Oh no. And when I acted the way I did without prejudice stuff, when I told people, you don't matter, right? It doesn't matter. I'm not responding. I was telling people, giddy up, put your big boy boots on, right? Because we're going to have, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a trial, right? If they don't agree.
Yeah, that's not going away, right?
I'm ready. I'm here for you. I'm just not wasting my time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This is not being nice. This is not being mamby-pamby, walking away. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel bad. No. It's none of that at all. It's I'm in the middle, and I have control, and I'm going to tell you whether I'm going to answer or not.
Well, and you're looking, it's a workable response.
It's a workable response. That's right.
Whereas engaging in the blame game
Is not workable.
it's just not workable.
Right.
So when you're doing, so the idea you have to have in your mind too, it gets more, it does get more complex than what we just demonstrated. But so when two people are arguing, the problem is, like, you can think of two people like this in the middle, right? The problem's between them. What we're trying to do is we're trying to move the problem where the two people are here and they're looking at.
You're looking at right.
Side by side.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go on the same side of the table. And the biggest thing you have to realize in negotiations, and people want to say strong, you got to say tough. They say all sorts of tough things. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how tough someone else is. It doesn't matter what they say, how big a voice they have, because you know what? I have the ultimate power, and it's two words. No, I don't agree.
Yeah.
You can yell and jump and shout all day long, right? You can do whatever you want, but that's not it. So all I'm saying is, I'm not saying give up the center. I'm saying you don't have to do the blame cycle thing.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to do things you don't want to do. Now, if someone wants to partner with me and look at a problem and we'll work it out, I'm glad to do that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. But don't expect by you yelling or doing whatever you want to do or saying whatever you want to say, that's going to change where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Having said that, I always keep in mind who or what is important to me. That's the guiding light every time, right? Because sometimes I might do something because it is in my client's best interest or someone's best interest. And I just can't be stupid to that, right? I got to be alive to it.
Yeah.
But what I do and how I do it and when I do it on my own terms. And I can always say no.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're always noticing what works, Ron, right? In other words,
that you got to keep your eye on the ball, whatever works at the end of the day. So, and sometimes, when we do this presentation, we always talk about the good, but you can use this stuff for evil too.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Right? You can use the blame cycle to your advantage. You can use it so if someone's in a blame cycle, this is terrible, you just want to keep it going because you want to keep them off-centered because they're missing the ball, right?
I know of people who do that.
Yeah.
Met a few of them.
And sometimes you really want to ramp up the blame cycle because you want the other person to think you're the most unreasonable person in the world.
Yeah.
So when you go to court and you just ask that first question, what's your name? they yell at you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have this angelic looking up at the judge. Going, it's like,
that face. That's great.
I just asked how they were. And you know, and they get angrier. And they want to tell the judge what a jerk you've been for you, right? Because you have been, but you're not at that moment which counts. The only moment that counts. So, you know, but I don't like talking about using this for evil.
No.
So, but the key is
what you're up to.
Keeping your center, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, knowing what the purpose is, knowing who's important, what's important, and always being guided by that rather than being responsive to the person who's blaming you. That's the thing.
Wow.
That's your construction. Now I hear it.
Yep. Someone's banging.
Well, cool. This has been excellent.
Yeah. Really good.
And this is from somebody who uses this professionally every week.
In some very contentious situations.
Very contentious situations, right. This is very contentious situation. So keeping this stuff, noticing and keeping this stuff in mind, moving toward the center, using the Viktor Frankl, I can choose my response, which is the observer self. In our terminology, and then practicing it, because if you do that once, it's not going to work.
No.
You're going to have to practice it, and then make it a daily living, make it a part of to practice this, and then after you do, then it becomes easier.
Yes.
Yep.
And you even do like Ron did, move it to your home. So take it home and use it with others. And once again, it's not that you're disengaging; you're just not going to engage in unworkable battles.
Yeah, Megan did it home first, and now in the workplace. Yeah.
And if you really get comfortable with it, you can use it for evil.
But you would need to state your evil purposes.
Yeah, state them up front.
Because you're a functional contextualist.
That's right.
You would have to go in and say, my purposes are to be evil. And then you get to be all
that works.
In reality, there's very, 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 very few times, very, very, very rare that you use, if you go with the right intention and the right frame of mind and, being the good guy, you are going to 99.9% of the time do okay, right? And that's where you want to be. And then, for people who don't want to play ball because they are how they are and they're never going to change, well, at least you learn how to get unstuck from that, which is the big thing.
They're going to keep coming at you too, right, Ron?
Yeah. So, that's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been excellent.
Yeah. Really. Good stuff.
Really. And the recording will be available.
Yeah.
And Tina says thanks. And toward the end, we got to be good, Phil.
Yeah.
The green button.
Still there. Still there.
Get a t-shirt. $25 t-shirt.
Yeah.
And have fun. And we'll be back next week. We do our mental
bushcraft, pandemic brain, and stuck loops.
Yeah, and just in case anybody has pandemic brain, probably not anybody on this call.
I had pandemic belly for a while. I had to do with COVID. That's why I put on all that weight.
There's a blame. There's a
good side.
What's a pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good move. Good move. Okay. Well, we'll be, and some of us will be back tomorrow.
Wednesday. Yep.
Wednesday, we do stuff. Sign up, and become a patron, and
you can be Wednesday and Friday for our
intermediate and advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is, and that's any level.
Yeah.
Any level.
Whatever you want to
So
pay.
25 is where you get the T-shirt and you
Right.
become Crowdcast Mastermind and you're heading towards certification.
There's Susan saying she saw you present in February, Ron, and became an instant Matrix fan, which is why I signed up in April with Kevin and myself.
Cool.
That means I get a t-shirt.
Thank you.
So yeah, for all of you who don't have your T-shirts, figure out,
Yeah.
let us know. But $25, you get a T-shirt, you help us out. It's all great. It's all good.
Help yourself out.
Send people our way.
Yep.
And we'll be back.
Yeah.
I guess we're done for today. Everybody have a great day.
Take care, everybody. Thanks again, Ron.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.